whatever it takes to stop this pain. I do not care. That is where I was at this point. Rushed to the hospital. Again, this is in the middle of the night. They come storming in. The security guard stops them and is like, "Where are you going?" And they say, "Cardiac ICU." And he like sees the panic on them and is like, "Go, go." Hello and welcome back to my channel, Christina's Story. If this is the first video of mine that you've seen, I would encourage you to pause this one, go back and watch or listen to some of the prior videos so you have some context, and then come back and join us on this one. We are going to be picking back up where we left off last week. As always, I will be referring to some notes because it's a long timeline and I want to make sure I hit everything. So, when we left off last episode, I was in survival mode, just hanging on by my fingernails, really, dealing with health issues. My marriage is falling apart, and I'm doing what I do best, which is pretending that everything's fine. At this point, I'm in the 6-month window of anticoagulation therapy, which just means being on blood thinners. So that they can determine if this mass that they found in my heart is a blood clot or a tumor, and if it is a tumor, is it benign or malignant. So that was real fun.
Super fun.
At the same time, my marriage is essentially over. We're still living together in the same home. It's a little bit ambiguous what the future is going to be at this point. I'm still trying to get him to get into some sort of a treatment program for drinking. I'm managing this medical crisis, and essentially the whole time just pretending like everything's fine.
I'm fine.
And really just using work as an escape. If you didn't know what was going on with me, you wouldn't know what was going on with me. I went about my normal life, taking care of my daughter, going to work, and just kind of ignoring this impending doom that's following me around because I have no control over it at this time. I really just have put it in God's hand and I'm just trying to make it through day by day. Just kept moving forward, keeping myself distracted. That's generally how I have handled these kind of situations. So after the 6-month mark, it was time for me to go and get an echocardiogram, which is an ultrasound of the heart. And the indication was going to be, had this mass grown or shrunk. If it shrunk, then the anticoagulation therapy is working and it's essentially a blood clot. If it's grown, it's a tumor. And then if it is a tumor, is it benign or malignant? So I went to the appointment in the morning. My mom went with me. They did the echocardiogram. So I met with the cardiologist after the echocardiogram, and what the cardiologist told me was that the mass had grown significantly. So it wasn't a clot, it was some sort of a tumor, and it could be malignant or it could be benign, but either way it needed to come out because it was essentially impeding my heart function at this point. Internally, I was definitely freaking out. I wasn't expecting at 29 years old to hear that I needed open heart surgery. But I externally, I think I teared up a little bit, but I was generally very calm. I wanted to get all the data and all the information, and I didn't want people just trying to comfort me emotionally. I want to focus on the facts. And that's a pattern from me that you'll learn as well. So I listened to what the doctor told me. I asked some questions. There was an indication that they weren't sure exactly how to proceed with the surgery. So they were going to be consulting peers and potentially may need to go out of network for the surgery. So my mom and I left the appointment. We went and got some lunch together. We filled my dad in on the appointment, and then I said, okay, I'm going to go to work.
I have work to do.
I'm going to go work the rest of the day. So I went back to work. My boss asked me how the appointment went. I told her not well, that I was going to end up needing open heart surgery, that it wasn't a clot. And she basically told me I should go home. And I said, I can't go home. I need to be at work right now. I need to be distracted. If I go home, I'm just going to sit around and think about this. And I can't mentally handle that right now. So I stayed and I finished my day at work. I went home from work and saw my husband and told him. And this was when I really started breaking down. I had made it through the whole day really strong, but I was at home with no more distractions. With the only person there to talk to about was not the person that I wanted to be opening up to at this point. I didn't feel emotionally safe with him. And so I was crying, telling him that I was going to have open heart surgery, that it was a tumor. And my sister was on vacation in Mexico, and I had told everyone, don't tell her, like, don't ruin her vacation. We'll talk to her when she gets back, because I knew that she was going to be really upset. And so when I got home and I was crying, I said, I just wish my sister was here. I want my sister. And that sent my husband off. He felt personally attacked because I was wanting someone else's comfort. And he was yelling at me. It was not a good conversation at that point. So it was not a good ending to this day. That was already terrible. And so I went to bed and I'm just laying there alone at night. And that was always the hardest time for me. I started like visualizing the optics of what open heart surgery is and what was going to happen to my body. And that's when I would get upset and scared. And it was always just when I was alone by myself. So I really dreaded that time at night. That's when I had nothing to distract me, other than to just pray and try and give it to God. So somewhere along this timeline, my office at work had announced that at some point in the future they would be closing down, and they were encouraging people to seek opportunities in other locations for our company. So at this point, I was the breadwinner. And I applied for a promotional opportunity in an office that was 5 hours away. And I ended up getting that offer. So I accepted the promotion. I offered my husband at the time to just quit his job and come with me and just focus on recovery and treatment, go to AA meetings, whatever that looked like. And then he could get a job at some point down the road. But he told me that he still wanted a divorce. So now I'm waiting to find out what's actually going to happen with this open heart surgery. I'm moving 5 hours away from my family, and my marriage is over. So I moved away. He stayed in the house that we were living in. I'm coming back and forth every weekend back to the Bay Area. Basically, as soon as I get off work on Friday, I would go straight back up to the Bay Area every weekend to be with my family. And just when I'm down in Central California where I'm working, all I'm doing is working. As much hours and overtime as I can get just to keep myself distracted.
She's been working very hard.
But 3 days after I moved out of the home with my husband, I got a call from his boss saying that he had had a stroke. And so he had diabetes, which he didn't manage, and he had high blood pressure, which he also didn't manage. He took medication for it, but he would a lot of times not take his medication, and his lifestyle wasn't conducive with managing those conditions. So I believe what happened is once I was gone, and there was no one there to watch what he was doing, that he consumed an excessive amount of alcohol, which caused his blood sugar to get extremely high and caused him to have a stroke. So I was told his sister, who lived in San Diego, was going to come up and get him and take him to live with her in San Diego, which further added salt to the wound, because he told me that he would never move, and that was why he wouldn't even consider going with me to Central California. But now he's moving even further away, and he no longer has a job. So there was really no reason that he couldn't have gone with me when I received this promotion. But I really didn't hear from him again throughout the rest of this season at all. And it was just so ironic because I had been trying so hard to get him help and reaching out to people. And everyone was just saying he doesn't have a problem, nothing's wrong. And then 3 days after I left, he literally has a stroke. So eventually I do get a call that they are ready to proceed with my surgery. So I drove back up to the Bay Area for preoperative appointments. I actually had a biopsy of my heart, which they made like a small opening in my jugular. They go in with a scope. You have to be awake while they do it. And they were essentially trying to pull off some pieces of the tumor to biopsy. The biopsy was terrible. They had a really hard time even getting any pieces to break off. I could literally feel them like tugging my heart and my chest. I could feel it moving from trying to break pieces off of this tumor. It was calcified, so they were having a hard time. And in the end, the results were inconclusive anyway, so it was really all for nothing. But that's a side note. So when I went in for my preoperative appointments, I had to fill out my advance directive. I had to let the medical providers know that my husband was not to make any medical decisions for me, that we were separated. So that was fun, of course. The night before my surgery, my whole family and I went up and stayed the night in a hotel because we had to be at the hospital very early in the morning. And it was quite a distance from our home, from my family home. My dad had fallen and broken his ankle, so he was in a cast. He had limited mobility. We needed a hotel room that was like handicap accessible. We ended up, me, my dad, my mom, my sister, and my daughter in a room with one king bed was all they could get us. My dad slept on a pull-out bed. The other 4 of us were in a king bed.
I can't sleep.
And they had like, the air conditioning wasn't working or the heater was on or something. It was like stifling hot in there. It was not a fun night in this stupid hotel room. But like I said, I had to be up very early before you have this surgery. Like some other surgeries, you have to shower with a special soap the morning of and the night before. So I got up early. I had kind of my last alone moments in the shower, just mentally preparing myself for what was to come. At the hospital, it was my family there. I had some quiet moments with my daughter, and I'll insert a picture that she and I took together right before I went in for the surgery. I did feel a lot of peace. I wasn't scared. I believe that to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. So there was nothing for me to fear. I did hope for the sake of my family that everything turned out well. I didn't want my family to suffer at all. And it was, not a guaranteed outcome. My mom's pastor and his wife came to be there with my family should anything go wrong. And before I went in, everyone gathered around and prayed over me, and I was just at peace. There was no tears, anything like that on my end. I was just ready to get this thing out of me. The surgery lasted about 9 hours. They were able to remove the tumor, and they placed a ring in to repair my tricuspid valve, which had been damaged by the tumor. So there was a plan to try and go in through my side, but I knew that might not work out. So if they were going to try and go in through my side first, if they could not go in through my side, they would go in through my sternum. When I woke up in the ICU, they had gone in through my sternum, but I didn't even notice because I was intubated when I woke up, which being conscious and intubated is terrible.
I don't like it.
It's like the worst part of open heart surgery, in my opinion, and I'm sure any other surgery where you have to be intubated like that. I don't wish that upon anyone. It's not fun, but once you get past that, once they can extubate you, it does tend to get better. So if you're looking at having open heart surgery, just know that once they extubate you, things get better. So when I woke up, I was intubated and I was in excruciating pain, but not the pain that you would think. This was pain in my left leg. It was like when your leg falls asleep or your foot falls asleep really bad, and it's like those super bad pins and needles when you're first trying to walk on it, and it hurts really bad, but it's usually for a very short period of time, and then it wakes back up. Well, it was like that, but times 10, to the point I didn't even feel any other pain in my sternum. I didn't even notice. I asked my mom later, did they go in through my sternum? She's like, yeah, they did. I couldn't talk because I was intubated and I was going in and out of consciousness. But every time I woke up, I was pointing at my leg. I was trying to like spell letters in the air. Like everyone always asks me why they didn't give me a pad to write, but I think you're so loopy at that time that wouldn't work. But I don't know if you're a cardiac nurse, maybe you can answer that question. But I'm like trying to spell like my leg hurts. I'm pointing at it, and like my family is catching on that I'm trying to indicate something with my leg, and the nurses are like, "Oh, she probably doesn't like the cuffs because they put like cuffs on your leg so you don't get a blood clot when you have a surgery that causes you to be immobile for a period of time." They were saying maybe it was that. Basically, she'll be fine. Everything's fine. And I don't know how long that went on. When you're in the ICU, everything is very blurry, but my family could tell something was wrong. The nurses were pretty much saying it was fine. I did eventually, at some point in the day, get a nurse that really could sense that this was not normal.
Finally.
Eventually, when they extubated me, I was just like, my leg hurt so bad. And I would not stop talking about my leg for hours. That's all. If you were to ask my family, that's all. My leg, it hurt so bad. My leg, I couldn't move my toes. They called in, I believe it was a vascular surgeon who said that I was fine. And then later, the nurse who really advocated for me and just knew that something wasn't right called in the next vascular surgeon that came on to shift, and he came in. My family had gone back to the hotel to get some rest at this point, so it's just me in the ICU. This vascular surgeon comes in and he tells me that my leg is dying.
That's unexpected.
He told me I had compartment syndrome. He said that when I was on the bypass machine, which when you have open heart surgery, you're put on a bypass machine. That keeps your blood flowing. It wasn't pumping blood into my left leg. And that I needed surgery immediately to try and save my leg. So I was going to be going back into surgery. I remember them being on a phone right there and asking for my family's phone number to call them to tell them. And they called like my parents first, and no one's answering because they're asleep. So I had them call my sister. My sister picked up, and my dad stayed back at the hotel with my daughter. My mom, and my sister rushed to the hospital. Meanwhile, they're having me sign a form to consent to this surgery, and they're telling me we might need to amputate your leg. So we need you to authorize that we can amputate your leg. And the pain in my leg was so excruciating that I was like, absolutely cut this bad boy off.
Where do I sign?
Whatever it takes to stop this pain, I do not care. That is where I was at this point. So my mom and my sister rushed to the hospital. Again, this is in the middle of the night. They come storming in. The security guard stops them and is like, "Where are you going?" And they say, "Cardiac ICU." And he like sees the panic on them and is like, "Go, go." So they come running up. So they were there for this surgery, where they're going to go in and try and save my leg at this point. So I have gone from recovering from heart surgery to potentially about to lose a limb. That was not on my surgery bingo card.
Did not see that coming.
That's where I'm going to end off here. In the next episode, when we pick up, I will walk you through my whole compartment surgery story. It's a saga. It was a long recovery. And it's pretty rare, but I really want to tell this story just in case anyone else ever has this happen to them. Because I've never met anyone that did, but it's not unheard of. It does happen. So I think it's an important story to tell just in case there's that one person out there that needs to know. So that's my plan in the next episode. I really hope you'll stick around. Subscribe, leave a comment on this video if anything resonated with you. Give it a like, and I look forward to continuing to share my story with you. Thanks.